This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on 9 years of achievements of the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. The participants are Praveer Krishna, former Managing Director, Tribal Cooperative Marketing Federation of India, and Gaura Dhawan Lal, anchor.
Mainstreaming tribes is a constitutional mandate and a national priority for the government. We also recognize measures and interventions to cater to the promotion of tribal products are of utmost importance given the challenging economic conditions that prevail in the lives of our tribal brethren. From marginalized to mainstreaming, that seems to be the mantra that the Ministry of Tribal Affairs follows. And today, to understand what 9 years of achievement of the Ministry of Tribal Affairs has been, we are delighted to have with us Mr. Praveer Krishna, former Managing Director, TriFed, the Tribal Cooperative Marketing Federation of India. Mr. Krishna, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
We start, Mr. Krishna, with the first mandate that we understand that the ministry has, because the tribal population, it's just under 9% of the Indian population. A huge chunk has been marginalized for long. The ministry has done some critical work in the last 9 to 10 years. What do you think have been some of the landmarks? And once we just highlight the landmarks, then we will go into details.
Right. So I'll tell you, the tribal population of the country is around 11.5 crores. 50% of this resides in forests. So this is our focus, because the others are sort of in urban and semi-urban centers and are capable of taking care of themselves. The Ministry of Tribal Affairs focuses in great details on these almost 6 crore people who reside in forests of the country. Almost 30 states, varying from 2% in Tamil Nadu and Kerala to about 95% in some of the states of the Northeast. These tribals are extremely skillful people and gifted with these skills of handlooms and handicrafts, and they are now owners of almost 2 lakh crores of non-timber forest produce, worth of 2 lakh crores of non-timber forest producers. So any development strategy which aims at improving the lot of these tribal people who happen to be at the lowest rung of the poverty ladder had to look at these issues, their intrinsic strengths, their basic character, and what needs to be done to hone them into higher livelihoods. So the ministry strategized that the 100 products in the forests need a fair price. They are being exploited by middlemen, and they are being paid extremely low prices for them. So the government announced minimum support prices for 100 items of non-timber forest producers.
Okay.
And this drastically transformed the tribal marketing of these products from a very low price system to a good, reasonable and very fair prices. So what was selling for 4-5 rupees a kg quickly went up to 50 to 60 rupees a kg, for example, tamarind. So similarly, 100 things, a 30,000 crore business was generated just by creating this minimum support price scheme. So this is one landmark which the government created by announcing MSP for 100 tribal products which come out from the jungle. The second was value addition, branding and processing. Most of the processing of these forest producers was done by others, not tribals. So a scheme was started called the Pradhan Mantri Janjatiya Vikas Mission, or the Vandhan program, where self-help groups of 20 to 25 tribal men and women were made who would process, brand, market these products so that the incomes could be trebled and increased multiple times. And finally, the marketing of handlooms and handicrafts. 26,000 types of handlooms and handicrafts is what is produced by almost 5,000 clusters of tribal people. And now, marketing them directly so that the tribal gets a fair price, excluding the middlemen. 147 retail outlets all over the country were established, and an e-commerce portal under the brand name of Tribes India was started. And this gave access to the tribals to directly sell their handlooms and handicrafts. So 3 major schemes. One, what would you call the MSP scheme for 100 tribal forest producers. The second, the Vandhan scheme, or the value addition, branding and marketing scheme for the forest producers. And finally, the marketing of handlooms across the country and outside the country is what gave tribals at least 3 to 4 times higher prices and give a big fillip to their basic income levels.
We have seen that a lot of the projects which have been carried out by the ministry have also
Yes.
been, stalwart projects in terms of being able to make such a huge difference. In fact, wanting
Yes.
to draw your attention, and you have, at a personal level, have contributed in terms of, the value addition branding and marketing when you were leading TriFed. Wanting to understand from you that how do we ensure,
Yes.
because quality of products and making sure that, they are suited for production.
Yes.
How do you curate the product for the market? Some inputs,
Yes,
sir.
yes. So it was indeed a great privilege to work in TriFed for almost 5 years, trying to get this gatherer to become an entrepreneur. And you see, what one advantage we had is that these people are extremely skillful. They've been doing these things for the last 10, 20 generations, and they're masters at this. So the issue of quality was never a problem. The issue that was plaguing this whole system was branding, packaging, and marketing. So let me give you a simple example. And we established 50,000 such centers. Let us understand it with a very small example. Tamarind grows wildly in the jungles of India, mostly in Bastar and all tribal areas. So now this tamarind is in its raw form, sells for around 20 to 25 rupees a kg. You remove the fiber and deseed it, it sells for about 200 to 300 to 400 rupees, depending on the quality of tamarind. And then you process it as powder to chutneys into masalas and package it and brand it. It sells for almost 800 to 1200 rupees a kg.
Okay.
So this value chain of 30 to 1200 rupees is such an intoxicating thing that the tribals, once they understood it, each of them wanted to be a processor and packager and marketeer of its own product.
Right.
So we set up 50,000 such value addition and processing centers all over the country. And then tribals themselves started doing it. And this revolutionized the whole tribal ecosystem, from a gatherer to an entrepreneur to a marketeer.
Absolutely.
And it is selling very well all over the world.
Absolutely.
So there is no question or no dilution of the quality, but the marketing support that was provided by TriFed pushed the whole system into a new orbit and almost trebled and multiple times increased the incomes of these tribal brothers and sisters,
Right.
who are extremely skillful.
Right. Mr. Krishna, wanting to draw your attention now to what we see as, so we've worked on prices, we've removed the middlemen, and we
Yes.
have actually made them entrepreneurs. Another thing which
Yes.
has happened is the social impact of this economic change. For example,
Yes.
and please add to this, the availability of maua being used for liquor and now maua being used to make
Yes.
sugar, and how social
Yes.
change has come about because of this. So the impact has been
Yes.
tremendous.
It's a very exciting journey, I tell you. Any economic change which gives you 5 to 6 times your income automatically leads to all such things which sort of catalyze the system to a new level of economic and social independence.
Absolutely.
And without diluting the social ethos that the tribals have, which is a very beautiful way of living. What happened is, after you start, the confidence that these people have, children were going to school, people were going to hospitals, the accounting systems improved, the role of money lenders and traders who were exploiting them reduced, the middlemen who were exploitative were chastened, and they started behaving the way they should behave, their predatory character changed. So the whole system got into a new ecosystem. And if you visit areas in Chhattisgarh, where I had the privilege of working as a collector also when Bastar was one district, you can feel the dheki rice, hand-pounded rice, was used to sell for 10 rupees, 15 rupees, 20 rupees a kg. Now these Mahila groups are selling it for 300 rupees a kg as hand-pounded red rice.
Right.
So all these wonderful things are coming out. All the jowar, bajra, millets, these are now extremely sought after foods, and these grow in such areas. So it's been a very transformational change, and it has not only changed the economic way of thinking, but the whole social milieu has gone to a new level. So what was a dependence on middlemen and predatory people who would exploit them for providing these services started in a system which was run by themselves. And this gave them the confidence, the new sort of the dash and the push that they could do it. And that has come to a point where it will only go higher and higher and higher.
Very positive words, Mr. Krishna. Very, very empowering, I'm
and it
sure.
was indeed a real pleasure for me to work with these people, delightfully crafted, skillful people.
Very empowering, I think, changes that have come about. But we also know that at least 60% of our tribal population, that amount is still, that number is still living in more or less in forests, and we have miles to go. What are some steps that the ministry has in mind?
I'll tell you, these people have been living there in the forest for almost 1,000 years. So the ministry has decided to give them sources of livelihood through these innovative MSP schemes, the value addition and branding, packaging and marketing, and then handlooms and handicrafts. About 5,000 clusters in the country produce the best quality of handlooms and handicrafts, about 26,000 types of them. So all these things are being linked to the market, a market-linked development strategy. So we don't want to displace them. We don't want to make them mechanics and fitters and plumbers. We want to be promoting their skills and taking it to the world. So what was selling for 200, it will sell for 5,000. Let me promise you, the quality of things that they produce is what was initially fetching them, say, 500 rupees in the primary market. If it gets to the secondary, tertiary and international markets, will fetch them at least 5,000 to 6,000 rupees. So the idea is to link their skills and their products to large markets, to big markets, to add to their income and their quality of life, their livelihoods, and their level of, and they will rise up in the poverty ladder. And this is the strategy which is being followed. So we want them to hone their skills, to add technology to their skills, to digitize this economy, and to link their products to the large markets nationally and internationally. So as any producer, they should get 70 to 80% of their final value chain. And we have started this in a big manner. And once this is achieved, the tribals will be another huge producing community, and from a producer to an entrepreneur to a businessman and to an industrialist is what is the goal, and this shall be achieved if we follow
Absolutely,
this.
without doubt. Also wanting to understand that, your passion and your positivity really makes it seem, like it happened effortlessly. There have been many challenges. Would you like to share some challenges also?
I worked in tribal areas for almost 12 years, in Bastar, in Ambikapur, and in Trifid, all over the country for 5 years. So I've literally sweated it out with the tribals, with my tribal brothers and sisters for 12 years. It is, let me tell you, a 100-hurdle race when it started, say, about 15, 20 years ago. So, as you know, anything that you promote or develop doesn't happen on its own, especially in the tribal sector, to create the market for these people, to let them access these markets, to remove the vested interest that they have in exploiting them by paying them lower prices. Getting this whole MSP system into a functional system is a 100 hurdles race, because the vested interest would like to buy it as low as possible. So if they can buy tamarind for 5 rupees, why should they pay 30 rupees? So enforcing the MSP is a big deal, and it took us a lot of hard work. Almost 50 to 60,000 employees of the state government and the district officials and the district magistrates all got into action, and they provided this spark to ensure that what was otherwise selling for 5 rupees will not sell for less than 30 rupees a kg in the primary market. So you can understand, to enforce, to make a plan is difficult, but to enforce is, but it needs a lot of courage, a lot of determination, and a lot of leadership, which was provided by the government, and we could overcome all these hurdles. And then all these products, getting them into the e-commerce, getting into retail, getting into franchisee arrangements. So all this was done through a sort of a labor of love and a lot of commitment and affection, and ultimately it's all happening, and extremely happy to say that this has taken off and should be changing the economic and social ethos of the tribals without changing them. The way they live, the way they dance, the way they eat, the way they worship is all most wonderful and needs to be preserved. But once they start earning 1 lakh rupees per month, the systems will improve the way you want it, we want it, all of us want to see it happening.
And socially, culturally and economically, India as a nation will be richer for all this. Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Praveer Krishna, for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
You were listening to a discussion on 9 years of achievements of the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. The participants were Praveer Krishna, former Managing Director, Tribal Cooperative Marketing Federation of India, and Gaura Dhawan Lal, anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. The program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289094044.